What if the ocean is trying to speak to us, and we simply can't understand its voice? The sea, vast and eternal, has always whispered secrets. But sometimes, its whispers aren't whispers at all. Sometimes, they're deafening roars. In 1997, a sound was recorded that would send ripples through the scientific community and echo across the ocean's depths for decades. The bloop. The bloop was a mysterious, ultra-low-frequency sound that was captured by hydrophones, sensitive underwater microphones placed across the Pacific Ocean. It was so loud that it could be heard by the human ear across thousands of kilometers. What made it so remarkable wasn't just its volume, but its origin, which has eluded scientists to this day. Despite exhaustive investigations, the bloop's source remains unidentified. Some speculated it was the sound of a giant animal, perhaps a colossal sea creature, something so large that it could dwarf anything we know, sending shockwaves through the very waters it called home. Others, however, point to natural phenomena, such as ice quakes or underwater volcanic activity. But these theories don't quite fit the frequency and consistency of the sound. It was unlike anything ever recorded, and despite advances in sonar and underwater acoustics, it remains an enigma. In the words of philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre, "The world is full of mysteries, and we can never know them all." Perhaps the bloop is one of those mysteries, a deep, unfathomable cry from the ocean's dark heart, forever beyond our grasp. Perhaps it isn't the nature of the sound that matters, but the silence behind it. After all, we can only understand what we're capable of hearing. The ocean, like the universe itself, is full of noise, undisturbed, hidden. The deeper we venture, the more we realize that some questions are meant to remain unanswered, or worse yet, beyond the realm of comprehension. And as we search for answers in the murky depths, consider this. Maybe the real mystery is not the sound we heard, but the vastness of what we've yet to discover. What else is out there beneath the waves? What are we still failing to hear? The bloop calls out to us. It asks a question we might never answer. Perhaps the question isn't about who or what made the sound, but rather why we are listening, and what that says about our own need to conquer, understand, and control the very mysteries that we know we cannot truly understand. In the end, maybe the ocean is telling us more about ourselves than it is about the creatures hidden within its depths. We hear what we want to hear, but sometimes what's left unsaid is the loudest of all. Why can't we fully map the ocean floor? What if the final frontier is not up in the stars, but right beneath our feet, buried in the depths of our own planet? The ocean floor is the last great uncharted territory on Earth. It covers more than 70% of our planet's surface, yet more than 80% of it remains unexplored. For centuries, we've looked to the stars in search of the unknown. But in doing so, we've neglected the mysteries that lie just out of reach beneath the waves. The question isn't why we haven't mapped the ocean floor. It's why we haven't felt the urgency to. The challenge lies not just in the vastness of the ocean, but in its inherent unpredictability. The ocean floor is a dynamic and hostile environment. Deep sea trenches, underwater mountains, and shifting tectonic plates make mapping a nearly impossible task. Traditional sonar technology, while groundbreaking, struggles to capture the immense scale of the ocean's depths. The pressure, the darkness, the ever-moving nature of the sea floor. It's a realm where human technology falters. In fact, If we were to try and map every square inch of the ocean floor with the technology we have today, it would take thousands of years to complete. Yet, even with this knowledge, the question remains: why haven't we prioritized this exploration more seriously? As the renowned marine biologist Sylvia Earle once said, "The ocean is the last great frontier on Earth. We need to explore it with the same intensity as we explore outer space." But perhaps our reluctance stems from the very nature of the unknown. As human beings, we are driven to conquer what is above us: the stars, the moon, the unreachable. The ocean is the opposite, constantly shifting, always out of grasp, reminding us that some frontiers may never be truly understood. Perhaps the reason we haven't fully mapped the ocean floor is that the ocean doesn't want us to. Like a living, breathing organism, the sea resists our attempts at understanding. With every discovery, it pulls back into its dark, silent depths, offering only glimpses of what might lie beneath. We pride ourselves on conquering land, the skies, even space itself. But when it comes to the ocean, we find ourselves humbled by its immense power, its infinite mystery, and its ability to remain unknowable. And as we gaze out over the vast expanse of water, ask yourself this: if we can't fully map the ocean floor, what else are we missing in this world, just below the surface? What is it that we're truly afraid to find out about the Earth, about ourselves, about our place in this ever-shifting, unknowable universe? Maybe the ocean isn't meant to be fully understood. Its depths are a reminder of our own limitations. No matter how advanced we become, there will always be mysteries we cannot unravel, and places where even our curiosity has no power. The Mariana Trench, Earth's deepest and least explored place. Beneath the Pacific Ocean lies a scar so deep, so ancient, it swallows light, sound, and understanding. The Mariana Trench is not just a geographical feature. It is the Earth's abyssal whisper. At nearly 11,000 meters deep, it is the most extreme point of our planet. A place where pressure can crush steel, where light ceases to exist, and where life, if it exists at all, must defy nature itself. It's a realm that pushes our definitions of survival, reality, and fear. Located east of the Philippines and south of Japan, the Mariana Trench is deeper than Mount Everest is tall. To this day, only a handful of missions have descended to its lowest point, Challenger Deep, and most of them were unmanned. The darkness down there is absolute. The water pressure over 1,000 times greater than at sea level, and temperatures hover just above freezing. Despite this, scientists have discovered microbial life, shrimp-like creatures, and possibly even large unknown organisms, suggesting that life, in its rawest form, can endure where nothing else should. We know more about the surface of Mars than we do about the floor of the Mariana Trench. In his novel, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Jules Verne imagined a world beneath the sea that rivaled outer space in wonder and terror. "The sea is everything," he wrote. "It covers 7/10 of the terrestrial globe. Its breath is pure and healthy. It is an immense desert, where man is never lonely, for he feels life stirring on all sides." But Verne's ocean, romanticized and poetic, was just a dream. The Mariana Trench is something else entirely. Less romantic, more horrifying. If the Mariana Trench represents the farthest edge of Earth's reach, then it is also a mirror. A mirror into what we fear: pressure, darkness, isolation, and the brutal truth that there are places we are not meant to go. And yet, the trench exists, not as a warning, but as an invitation. What waits in its depths isn't just biology or geology. It's a confrontation with humility. That we, for all our arrogance, are not the rulers of this world. That beneath us lies a realm that has existed untouched for millions of years, unmoved by human noise. So the question becomes, are we exploring the trench? Or is it quietly observing us? The Mariana Trench is not just a hole in the earth. It is a wound, an ancient, silent wound in the skin of the world. And perhaps the reason it remains so unexplored is because it reminds us how deep our ignorance runs. Bioluminescent creatures, how do they light up the darkest depths? What if the only source of light in your world came from your own body? In the crushing silence of the ocean's twilight zone, where sunlight dies and pressure rules, life found another way to be seen. Bioluminescence, light born from life, defies the darkness not with heat, but with chemistry. It's not just beautiful. It's survival, deception, seduction, a glowing language in a world without words. Bioluminescence is the production and emission of light by living organisms. From deep-sea jellyfish and anglerfish to comb jellies and siphonophores, these creatures wield light like a weapon, a shield, or a lure. Most bioluminescent reactions occur through a compound called luciferin, which, when oxidized by an enzyme called luciferase, releases visible light. But why? In the deep, light is currency. Some use it to attract prey, like the anglerfish, with its eerie lantern suspended from its head. Others emit sudden bursts of brightness to blind predators or confuse them. Some species even mimic starlight from above to hide their silhouettes from hunters below, a method called counter-illumination. It's an arms race in the pitch-black void, fought with bursts of color. In his book, The Deep, The Extraordinary Creatures of the Abyss, Claire Nouvion describes bioluminescence as a poetry of necessity. The ocean, she says, is filled with living light sculptures that drift, swirl, and flash in silence, unseen by the world above. Even Carl Sagan once said, "We are a way for the cosmos to know itself." But perhaps in these abyssal zones, it is light itself that becomes the language of knowledge. Each flicker, a message carved into the dark. There's something profoundly haunting about these glowing beings. Their light isn't just chemical, it's existential. Imagine living your whole life in a world so dark that your body had to become the lantern. That light is a necessity, not a luxury. And we, above the waves, live in the illusion that we know the world. But 80% of Earth's oceans remain unmapped, unexplored, and unseen by human eyes. In those forgotten regions, these luminous phantoms drift silently, carrying the last remnants of alien beauty right here on Earth. We fear the dark because we think it hides death. But in the ocean's depths, it hides life. Life that glows. Bioluminescent creatures are not miracles. They are evidence. Proof that even in total darkness, evolution chooses to shine. So the next time you close your eyes and see nothing, remember, something, somewhere, is glowing. The mysterious deep-sea giant squid that eluded scientists for centuries. How do you study a creature that's almost never seen, but has haunted human myth for centuries? There is something deeply unsettling about a monster that might be real. The giant squid has existed in the human psyche as a myth, a warning, a god of the deep. And yet, it's real. But reality, in this case, only makes the mystery more terrifying. Because we still don't fully understand it. We know it exists, but not how it lives, where it mates, or how many even roam the abyss. For most of human history, the giant squid, Architeuthis dux, was a legend. spoken of in hushed tones by sailors, whispered into nautical maps as Kraken. Some believed it could pull entire ships beneath the sea. But it wasn't until the late 19th century that decomposing carcasses began washing ashore. Massive eyes, curling tentacles, beaks like bone cutters. Proof. And yet, it remained elusive. It wasn't filmed alive in its natural habitat until 2012. Yes, 2012. Even today, only a handful of videos exist. Most of what we know comes from dead bodies, washed up or caught by deep-sea trawlers. But these remains raise more questions than answers. The squid's eyes are the largest in the animal kingdom, over 10 inches across, adapted to sense faint light in crushing darkness. Its feeding tentacles, lined with rotating hooks, suggest it's an ambush predator. But its behavior, its life cycle, even its predators, aside from sperm whales, remain largely unknown. In 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Jules Verne imagined the squid as a nightmare incarnate, an intelligent predator of monstrous scale. While fictional, Verne's depiction reflects something raw, the human fear of the unseen and the enormous. Science writer Richard Ellis once noted, "The giant squid may be the most elusive large animal on the planet." And perhaps that elusiveness is not accidental, but evolutionary. A creature evolved to be forgotten by surface life. The giant squid is not just a biological curiosity. It is a reminder of how little we truly control. A massive, intelligent being lives in the same world as us, and yet we've only scratched the surface of its reality. It lives in darkness. It hides not in myth, but in fact. So much of life beneath the waves remains unfilmed, undocumented, unclassified. The squid reminds us that our ignorance isn't behind us. It surrounds us. We are the strangers here, not them. And maybe the monsters we feared in ancient times were never imaginary. We just hadn't sunk deep enough to meet them. The Abyssal Plain. Why is this vast ocean region so undisturbed? What if the largest part of our planet is also the quietest, the loneliest, and the least known? Stretching across more of Earth's surface than all the continents combined lies a realm so desolate, so untouched. It's almost as if the planet forgot it was there. The Abyssal Plain, a vast, dark desert beneath miles of crushing water pressure, where time seems to stop and change as a stranger. The abyssal plains lie at depths of 3,000 to 6,000 meters. They are some of the flattest, most stable regions on Earth, yet also some of the least explored. Formed by the slow rain of dead organisms from above, what scientists call marine snow, these plains are blanketed in a fine, constant dust of decay. No sunlight penetrates. The temperature hovers near freezing. And yet, in this stillness, life exists. Ghostly sea cucumbers, spindly brittle stars, and unblinking fish crawl or drift through the muck. Some species have never been seen anywhere else. Others haven't changed for millions of years. Evolution slows here, in the dark. The reason this realm is so undisturbed? Simple. We can't reach it. It's too deep, too vast, too quiet for even sonar to map completely. Expeditions cost millions, and we've only studied fragments. To this day, less than 0.05% of the abyssal plain has been directly observed. Rachel Carson, in her book, The Sea Around Us, described the deep sea as a world that time forgot, where change creeps forward on geological timescales, not human ones. The abyssal plain is not just a place. It's a memory of Earth before us, before history, before light. We often look to space and say we are small, but the ocean says it louder and with more silence. The abyssal plain is Earth's great cemetery and its great cradle. It absorbs what dies and hides what lives. We don't know what's buried there. We don't know what's waiting. But maybe that's the point. It doesn't want to be known. It reminds us that mystery isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's just empty and still and endless. Underwater volcanoes. How do they shape the ocean's ecosystems? Beneath the surface of the sea, the Earth is still being born, quietly, violently. We think of volcanoes as monsters of land, fiery peaks that erupt into the sky, leaving ruin in their wake. But most of Earth's volcanic activity doesn't happen on land. It happens in silence, beneath thousands of meters of water, where fire meets pressure and the planet reshapes itself in secret. There are an estimated 1 million underwater volcanoes, only a tiny fraction of which we've discovered. These seafloor eruptions are not rare. They are constant. They create new crust, give birth to underwater mountains, and feed entire ecosystems in a world with no sunlight. At hydrothermal vents, superheated water bursts from fissures in the seafloor, rich with minerals. What should be a hellscape instead becomes an oasis. Here, life thrives without sunlight, using chemosynthesis instead of photosynthesis. Giant tube worms, eyeless shrimp, and alien-like crabs feed off the volcanic byproducts. In this darkness, the rules of biology change. These volcanoes may have even birthed all life on Earth. Many scientists believe hydrothermal vents were the cradle of the first organisms, a theory that challenges our most fundamental ideas of what life needs to begin. In The Origin of Life, Alexander Oparin proposed that life may have started in the primordial soup. But modern science points to something even more primordial. Not soup, but fire and pressure. Astrobiologists now look for similar volcanic vents beneath Europa's icy oceans, searching for echoes of Earth's origin on other worlds. Underwater volcanoes are reminders that destruction and creation are inseparable. That in the most extreme, hostile corners of existence, life finds a way. And maybe the most unsettling truth: these forces are still shaping our world beneath us, quietly. A single eruption could send tsunamis rippling across continents. But for now, they slumber in silence, creating life, destroying land, and reminding us that the ground beneath our feet is more fragile and more alive than we'd ever dare to imagine. The hidden rivers beneath the ocean. What lies in their currents? How can a river exist at the bottom of the sea? We assume rivers belong to land, flowing between mountains, winding through forests, dividing nations. But deep beneath the ocean's surface, there are rivers that defy that logic. They twist, they flow, they carve through the seafloor like ghostly highways in a world without sunlight. And they are utterly real. These underwater rivers form when dense, salty brine seeps from beneath the seafloor and sinks, heavier than the surrounding seawater. Gravity pulls it along, carving channels into the ocean bed, forming what look like underwater waterfalls, rapids, even meanders. The most famous example? The Cenote Angelita in Mexico, where divers descend into a river, inside a body of water, inside the earth. But there are even larger ones. The Black Sea has its own submerged river, stretching for hundreds of kilometers, with currents, banks, and floodplains. If it were on land, it would be among the largest rivers in the world. These rivers transport sediment, chemicals, and even life, connecting distant parts of the ocean in ways we barely understand. In The Hidden Life of Trees, Peter Wohlleben suggests that forests have a silent, underground communication system. roots and fungi, speaking in chemical pulses. The ocean seems to whisper in the same way. Its own network of submerged rivers, ferrying nutrients like messages between the deepest biomes of the planet. These hidden rivers are a quiet contradiction. They flow where rivers shouldn't. They are made of water, moving through more water, and yet they have direction, destination, and impact. It's a reminder that even in places we thought were still, unchanging, unmoving, there is motion, purpose, a secret current beneath the silence, and maybe beneath our own surfaces. The same is true. The ocean's missing carbon. Where is it all disappearing to? What if the answer to our climate crisis is buried in a place we can't even see? Carbon, this invisible architect of life and death, shapes our future. We pump it into the sky. We fear its rise. We track its trails. And yet, the math doesn't add up. A vast amount of it is missing, vanished, and the ocean may be hiding it in ways we still don't understand. Every year, the Earth absorbs massive amounts of carbon dioxide. Forests take in some, soil stores some. But the ocean is the largest carbon sink on the planet, pulling in roughly 30% of what we emit. Yet scientists have discovered a disturbing inconsistency. Vast stores of carbon seem to vanish deeper into the ocean, never to return to the surface. We call it the biological pump, a process where tiny plankton absorb carbon, die, and sink. But these dead particles fall into the abyss, and then nothing. No trace. No clear map of where the carbon ends up. Some suspect it's trapped in the slow-moving water masses of the deep sea, isolated from the atmosphere for hundreds, sometimes thousands of years. Others think it's being consumed, transformed by unknown life forms, or buried in sediment forever. But we can't say for sure. And that's the terrifying part. In his paper, The Tragedy of the Horizon, Mark Carney wrote that climate risk is a problem for future generations. But our systems aren't built to care about the future. The ocean might be the same. It has accepted our excess, but it will not forgive it. The ocean's missing carbon is more than a scientific puzzle. It's a mirror, a reminder that we are pouring our legacy into the depths, out of sight, out of mind. But nothing disappears forever. The sea may be silent, but it keeps receipts. And one day when it exhales, it may return everything we tried to forget. How do sea turtles navigate? Thousands of miles without getting lost. How does a creature born in the sand know how to return, decades later, to the exact same beach? Across vast, open, featureless oceans, without maps, stars, or signs, sea turtles glide through darkness. No guide, no compass. And yet, they never seem lost. It's not instinct as we understand it. It's something deeper, something almost mythical. Sea turtles travel thousands of miles during their lives, migrating between feeding grounds and nesting beaches with unfailing precision. Green turtles can cross entire oceans, sometimes 1,400 miles, only to return to the very spot they hatched from up to 30 years later. But how? The answer might lie in a hidden sense: magnetoreception. Sea turtles appear to detect Earth's magnetic field like a natural GPS system. They imprint on the magnetic signature of their birthplace, carrying it like an invisible tattoo in their nervous system. Each location on Earth has a unique magnetic intensity and inclination. And turtles seem to read these magnetic cues like an ancient code, guiding them across the chaos of the ocean back to origin. But here's the eerie part. We still don't fully know how they do it. How does this magnetic sense actually work at the neurological level? Why do some turtles get lost as magnetic fields shift with time? We're watching a form of navigation we don't even understand, one that operates on a wavelength of existence we've never truly felt. In The Sense of Wonder, Rachel Carson once wrote, "Those who contemplate the beauty of the earth find reserves of strength that will endure as long as life lasts." Turtles carry a kind of memory far beyond ours, a memory of place imprinted not in mind, but in body. We rely on tools to know where we are. Turtles simply remember. In a world of algorithms and directions, they remind us that not all intelligence is conscious. Not all knowing needs a thought. And sometimes, the deepest truths are the ones you're born already carrying, etched into your being by forces older than language. Perhaps the real mystery isn't how turtles find their way back, but how we ever learn to feel so lost. The silent depths. Why are we still so unaware of life in the Hadal zone? What kind of life thrives in a place where no light has ever touched and no human has ever stayed? The Hadal zone. It begins where most life ends, below 6,000 meters, deeper than the resting place of the Titanic, deeper than Mount Everest is tall. And yet, it's not empty. It's teeming but silent. Life exists there, beyond light, beyond warmth, beyond even our understanding of survival. But why can't we hear it? This zone, named after Hades, the Greek god of the underworld, covers the deepest ocean trenches. Pressures here exceed 1,000 times what we experience at sea level. It's the most extreme environment on Earth. And yet, scientists have discovered amphipods, snailfish, and even microbial mats thriving in these impossibly hostile conditions. But even with modern technology, we've explored less than 1% of the Hadal zone. In fact, we know more about the surface of Mars than we do about Earth's deepest waters. The reasons: the crushing pressure destroys most machines. Temperatures hover just above freezing. And communication with anything that deep is almost impossible. Even our best submersibles can only stay for minutes. And still, in that darkness, something is watching. In the myth of Sisyphus, Albert Camus suggests, the struggle itself is enough to fill a man's heart. And here in the Hadal depths, life doesn't just struggle, it prevails. In a place where existence seems absurd, it thrives regardless. We like to believe we've conquered the planet, but the Hadal zone reminds us of our ignorance. It is Earth's subconscious, vast, quiet, and filled with things we don't understand. Maybe we're not meant to explore it. Maybe we're meant to listen to the silence, because in that silence is a warning. There are still places on this earth where human ambition cannot reach, and life, in its strangest, most alien form, continues, unseen, unheard, and utterly indifferent to whether we ever understand it. How do giant ocean whirlpools form, and what's their true power? What if the ocean could spin itself into a vortex so massive it could swallow entire ecosystems? Giant ocean whirlpools, also known as eddies, aren't just turbulent patches of sea. They are vast, slow-moving spirals of water, sometimes stretching over 300 kilometers wide and lasting for months, even years. These whirlpools form when strong ocean currents collide or twist upon themselves, often triggered by temperature gradients, salinity differences, or seafloor topography. But unlike a bathtub swirl, these giants are quiet, invisible from above, and often unnoticed, until their effects ripple through the ecosystem. Some of these whirlpools, like the Agulhas rings off South Africa, carry warm, nutrient-rich water from one part of the ocean to another, shaping entire food chains in their wake. Others trap heat and carbon, altering weather patterns, even fueling hurricanes. They can pull in marine life, plastics, sediments, swallowing them whole, sometimes releasing them thousands of miles away, if at all. In The Order of Things, Michel Foucault reflects on the illusion of understanding structure, saying, "We think we know the map, but we only see what the mapmaker wanted us to see." These eddies, roaming, unseen forces, are not part of our navigational comfort. They are the ocean's wild, untamed logic. To the creatures caught inside, time moves differently. Some species trapped within an eddy become genetically distinct over time. Evolution isolated by motion. To scientists, these whirlpools are both life-bringers and destroyers. To sailors, they are ghosts of the sea, glimpsed only by satellite, whispering beneath the waves. And maybe, in these silent gyres, the ocean reminds us, it is not still. It is not safe. It is thinking, moving, circling, and it does not need us to understand it. The phenomenon of red tide. What causes the ocean to glow red? What if the ocean, the very source of life, decided to burn with a crimson fury, drowning the seas in a toxic glow? The red tide, it's not just a beautiful spectacle from a distance. It's a disturbing biological event that's far more sinister than it sounds. This phenomenon occurs when certain types of algae, specifically dinoflagellates, reproduce in explosive numbers, creating a dense red or brownish hue in the water. But it's not just the color that's alarming. These algae, when overpopulated, release potent toxins into the water, making the ocean not just look dangerous, but actually poisonous. The toxins can affect marine life, birds, and even humans. Fish and shellfish can absorb them, and when consumed by humans, they can lead to paralytic shellfish poisoning, resulting in paralysis or even death. In some cases, the toxins are so powerful they can suffocate marine life by depriving the water of oxygen. In his Phenomenology of Spirit, Hegel wrote, "The truth is the whole, but the whole is nothing if the parts do not show their meaning." In the red tide, the ocean's hidden danger reveals itself. What seems like beauty or a curious anomaly is actually a delicate balance tipping into chaos, an ecosystem revealing its fragile truth. The red tide is a warning that nature does not always play by our rules. What we see on the surface, in every beautiful wave or glowing red tide, is only a reflection of a deeper, unpredictable force beneath. It's a reminder of our powerlessness in the face of nature's raw potential to destroy or renew. And maybe it's a reflection of our own lives. At times, we too are like the algae, flourishing rapidly, caught in a tide of growth that we can neither control nor predict. But how many of us stop to think about the consequences of that rise before it poisons everything we know? Underwater lakes and rivers. Why do they exist on the ocean floor? What if the ocean could hide entire worlds beneath its surface, realms of water within water, where life moves in silence and mystery? Beneath the vastness of the ocean, in the deepest, most secluded parts, there exist underwater lakes and rivers. Phenomena so strange and alien that they challenge everything we know about the ocean. These submerged landscapes form when a layer of dense, saline water from underwater springs or the seafloor creates a boundary between normal seawater and the heavier, saltier liquid. The result is a dense, immobile body of water that behaves like a liquid in its own right. The most famous of these lakes is the lost city in the Mediterranean, a hyper-saline lagoon where life flourishes despite the harsh environment. And then there's the brine pools in the Gulf of Mexico. Vast, stagnant underwater lakes that harbor noxious gases and can suffocate creatures that dare venture too deep. In the ancient I Ching, it's written, "The well-being of the world depends on the way it is governed, just as the depth of a lake depends on the source of its water." In these underwater lakes, the ocean's silent rule is clear. Below the surface, in the murky, dark places, life exists in a fragile balance, governed not by the sunlight we see, but by forces far more inscrutable. These depths are not static, but teeming with unseen forces that maintain a delicate, hidden order, invisible to us on the surface. Imagine living your entire life in a world not governed by sunlight, but by the dark, cold currents beneath. What would that do to you, to your existence, your soul? The creatures that thrive in these underwater lakes aren't just surviving. They are adapting to an existence we cannot even fathom. And perhaps we too live in a similar unseen layer, one governed by hidden rules and forces just beyond our understanding, always just out of reach of our awareness. We are all submerged in our own brine pools, breathing and moving in the silence of forces we cannot control. And in this cold, dark world, we may be the creatures who have yet to understand what really sustains us. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch, a floating mystery we can't solve. What if the ocean had a secret it couldn't keep? An ever-growing floating island of human waste, forever carried by the tides. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch is a vast expanse of waste. Plastic, fishing nets, broken electronics, floating invisibly within the Pacific Ocean. This phenomenon, known as the garbage gyre, is not a singular island, but a sprawling soup of debris swirling in the currents of the North Pacific. It's larger than some countries, covering an area that can be difficult to fathom. Despite efforts to clean it, the garbage patch only grows, fed by human consumption and wasteful habits. What's most terrifying about the patch is its complexity. The plastics don't just sit on the surface. They break down into tiny, toxic microplastics that are now embedded throughout the ocean, entering the food chain. We've created a mess so vast, we can't clean it up. And worse, we may never fully understand the damage we've already done. In Moby Dick, Herman Melville writes, "The sea is the same as it has been since before men ever set foot on it. But man is a different creature now, and the world has changed." The ocean, once a vast, pristine unknown, is now a mirror for our own destructive nature. We have changed the ocean in ways we can't undo, polluting it, poisoning it, and using it as a dumping ground for our waste. The garbage patch is a symbol of how humankind's disregard for nature has made its mark in the most irreversible way. We have altered the balance of the world, and in the process, we've created something we cannot fix. We live in a world where we consume, waste, and forget. But the ocean does not forget. It carries our sins across its surface, recycling our refuse into toxic islands that float aimlessly, impervious to the laws of time. How many more generations will we live with the consequences of what we've left behind? We may never see the full impact of our actions, just as we may never see the garbage patch in its entirety. But it is there, silently growing. What do we owe to the world when we leave nothing behind but waste? The garbage patch is not just a physical place. It is a haunting reminder of how we have reshaped the planet and how we are trapped within the consequences of our own neglect. We've discarded our past, but the ocean holds on to it forever. Why do some ocean creatures live for hundreds of years? What if the key to eternal life lies not in the human quest for immortality, but in the depths of the ocean, where creatures defy time itself. In the vast, dark expanse of the ocean, there are creatures whose lives stretch on for centuries, living far beyond the average lifespan of most living beings. From the immortal jellyfish, Turritopsis dohrnii, capable of reverting to its youthful state, to the ancient Greenland shark, which can live for over 400 years, the ocean is home to some of the most incredible feats of longevity on Earth. But why do these creatures live so long? And what can we learn from them? The ocean's depths harbor extreme environments, freezing cold temperatures, crushing pressure, and scarce food sources that could explain these creatures' slow metabolism and prolonged lifespans. The Greenland shark, for example, grows at an astonishingly slow rate, taking over 150 years just to reach sexual maturity. Some of these animals are thought to be living relics, unchanged for millions of years, providing us with a living link to the distant past. In his book, The Immortalization Commission, science writer Gary L. Stewart writes, "In the depths, where life is slow and survival is a matter of patience, evolution has gifted some creatures with the ultimate defense against time itself. This slow march of time, hidden from our perception, challenges our understanding of life's fleeting nature. We often see time as a relentless, unforgiving force, yet in these creatures, it becomes a quiet companion, granting them the luxury of longevity. What makes them immune to the march of time is precisely their adaptability to the harsh conditions of the ocean. But their existence forces us to confront a haunting question. Why does time seem to hold such a different power over them than it does over us? In our world, time is our greatest enemy. It devours everything, our youth, our health, our memories. It's a force we can neither fight nor control. But these ancient ocean creatures exist as paradoxes, as living defiance against the inevitable passage of time. They remind us that perhaps we are too obsessed with our fleeting moments. What if life isn't meant to be measured by its length, but by its depth? Consider the creatures that live for centuries in the ocean's depths, untouched by the frantic ticking of the clock that governs our lives. Are we really living? Or are we simply rushing through time, racing against a force we know we cannot beat? The ocean's ancient dwellers may be free from time's grip, but perhaps it's not immortality we should seek. Perhaps it's the understanding that we too have an ocean of time within us. If only we could learn to live in its depths. The Bermuda Triangle. Are ships and planes really vanishing? What if the sea itself were a silent predator? One that swallows entire ships and planes, leaving no trace behind. The Bermuda Triangle, a region bounded by Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, has been the subject of countless myths, theories, and investigations. For centuries, tales of missing ships, disappearing planes, and strange magnetic anomalies have fueled its sinister reputation. Is it really a place of inexplicable disappearances? Or is it simply the unpredictable power of nature that we fail to comprehend? Some argue that the Bermuda Triangle is nothing more than a large expanse of the ocean, with no more disappearances than anywhere else. Yet, the unexplained events that do occur in this region remain chilling, leaving a lingering question. Why do some of these incidents defy logic and reason? Even modern technology, capable of tracking and tracing the most elusive objects, struggles in this mysterious space, fueling the idea that something beyond our understanding is at play. In The Invisible Man, H.G. Wells writes, "The unseen is often far more terrifying than the seen." The Bermuda Triangle, is an enigmatic region where reality and myth converge. Scientists have proposed numerous theories, from magnetic fields disrupting compasses to methane hydrate eruptions that cause ships to sink. But these scientific explanations cannot fully account for the eerie number of strange disappearances over the years, nor the unsettling feeling that there is something else, something beyond science, at work in this region. The ocean is full of secrets, and the Bermuda Triangle is one of its most haunting. We've mapped the stars, we've charted the moon, and yet there are still places on Earth where human understanding falters. What does it say about us? That we have explored every corner of the Earth and still cannot fully grasp the danger of certain spaces. The Bermuda Triangle reminds us that there are still vast, uncharted regions of the world where our understanding is fragile. But even more terrifying than the unknown itself is the thought that perhaps we are not meant to know everything. Are some places meant to remain untouched, concealed from our reach? Or do we simply lack the capacity to understand them? What if we are not the ones in control of the world? What if, instead, it's the world that controls us? And the Bermuda Triangle is just one reminder of that power. The bizarre glass squid. How does it survive in extreme depths? What if the key to survival in the deepest, most hostile part of the ocean lies in being invisible, almost ghostly? In the crushing darkness of the deep ocean, survival is a constant battle against time, temperature, and pressure. But the glass squid, a creature that seems almost too strange to exist, has found its own way to thrive in these extreme depths. With its translucent, gelatinous body and a shape that resembles a delicate, almost fragile shard of glass, this creature is an enigma in the deep sea. But how does it survive where others would perish? The glass squid lives in the twilight zone of the ocean, where light barely penetrates and the pressure is overwhelming. Its semi-transparent body allows it to blend in perfectly with the surrounding environment, making it nearly invisible to predators. This is an evolutionary marvel, as it has evolved to take on a unique form: transparent skin, minimal muscle mass, and large, sensitive eyes to navigate through the abyss. But beyond the sheer invisibility, it possesses a secret weapon: bioluminescence. The squid uses special organs called photophores to emit light, confusing predators and potential prey alike. It can even adjust the intensity of the light to match the background, disappearing from view completely in an environment where the smallest mistake could be fatal. As marine biologist Dr. Sylvia A. Earle writes in The World is Blue, in the deepest depths, life does not scream for attention. It whispers, blending with shadows and silence, a testament to survival in a place where existence itself is a delicate dance. This quiet, almost spectral way of life in the extreme depths is a testament to the resilience and ingenuity of life on Earth. The glass squid doesn't fight its environment. It adapts to it, becoming part of the very fabric of the ocean itself. It embodies the paradox of survival in the ocean's darkest corners. To endure, sometimes you must become invisible. When we look at the glass squid, we see a creature that has learned to be invisible, not out of fear, but out of necessity. In a world where survival is not just about strength, but also about blending in, about surrendering your existence to the environment, the glass squid asks us a haunting question: how much of ourselves do we hide just to survive? We walk through our world, filled with distractions and expectations, trying to be seen, trying to be noticed. But perhaps In the same way the glass squid thrives by fading into the background, there are times when we must consider how we too might survive in the shadows, by becoming less visible, by blending in, and maybe, just maybe, by learning that survival is more about evading the light than stepping into it. What happens to the missing planes and ships in the deep ocean? Where do the missing planes and ships go when they vanish into the vast, empty expanse of the deep ocean? The ocean is a place of vastness, mystery, and, at times, horror. For centuries, planes and ships have vanished into its depths, never to be seen again. But what really happens to these lost vessels once they disappear from our radar? Do they sink and become forgotten? Or do they meet a far more disturbing fate? The deep ocean is not just a physical barrier, but a psychological one. As one of the least explored and most hostile environments on Earth, the depths of the ocean can swallow entire ships and aircraft without a trace. The journey down into the abyss is brutal. Extreme pressure, freezing temperatures, and complete darkness. When a ship sinks or a plane crashes, it is not simply lost to the ocean. It is shredded, disintegrated, and consumed by the sea's merciless currents. But in the darkest regions of the ocean, a deeper mystery lingers. Some wrecks, such as those from the Bermuda Triangle, have never been found, even though search efforts were extensive. It's not just about sinking. Sometimes, entire vessels and planes vanish without a trace, swallowed by the unforgiving waters in a way that defies logic. Are these disappearances simply an outcome of natural forces? Or is something more sinister at play? The wreckage that does make it to the bottom of the sea does not stay intact forever. Over time, the pressure at the ocean floor causes even the hardest metals to break down. In some cases, shipwrecks and plane wreckage are slowly consumed by the ocean's vast ecosystems. Yet, despite the ocean's ability to reclaim almost everything, some wrecks remain undisturbed, lying at the bottom of the sea as eerie time capsules, preserved in their tragic final moments. As Jacques Cousteau, the famed oceanographer, once said, "The sea, once it casts its spell, holds one in its net of wonder forever." For all our advances in technology, for all our efforts to search, map, and explore, the ocean holds us in its grasp, refusing to reveal all its secrets. These missing planes and ships, their final fates suspended in the ocean's depths, remind us of how small and fragile we truly are against nature's most overwhelming force. Every disappearance beneath the waves reminds us of an unsettling truth. The ocean does not forgive. It swallows whole parts of our history and our humanity without a second thought. The wrecks and missing vessels are like forgotten graves, permanent, silent, and endless. They linger in the deep as haunting reminders that some things, no matter how hard we try, can never be reclaimed. What if those ships and planes, we too disappear into the deep unknown, never to be found? Is there any part of us that is truly permanent? Or are we all just waiting to be claimed by the ocean's dark embrace? The mystery of the Devil's Sea. In Japan's waters, what lurks beneath the calm surface of the waters known as the Devil's Sea? And why has it claimed so many lives? Nestled off the coast of Japan, beyond the familiar waters of the Pacific Ocean, lies a stretch of sea that has earned its ominous name. The Devil's Sea, or Ma no Umi in Japanese. For centuries, this part of the ocean has been shrouded in mystery, with countless tales of ships, planes, and people mysteriously vanishing into its depths. The legends surrounding it are as dark as the waters themselves, making it Japan's answer to the infamous Bermuda Triangle. Unlike other parts of the world where disappearances can often be attributed to natural causes, the Devil's Sea seems to defy reason. The stories of sudden, unexplained disappearances date back to ancient times, but it wasn't until the 1950s that this region began to attract global attention. In 1952, a Japanese fishing trawler disappeared without a trace, sparking fears that the Devil's Sea might be an unexplainable force, one that science and logic couldn't grasp. The region is particularly treacherous due to a combination of powerful underwater currents, extreme weather conditions, and the sudden appearance of intense fogs that disorient sailors and pilots. But despite these explanations, something still feels off about this place. A seemingly unnatural pattern of mysterious events that refuses to be entirely explained. In the words of the famous philosopher and mystic Carl Jung, the encounter with the unconscious is always unsettling, for it is beyond rational understanding. It is not simply an event of personal experience, but a confrontation with the deepest forces of nature. Jung's notion of the unconscious extends beyond our minds and into the world itself, into the forces that control nature, hidden from the conscious world. Could the Devil's Sea be a place where those forces are at play? A place where human understanding falters and the boundary between the known and the unknown is blurred? Scientists have tried to explain the disappearances in the Devil's Sea by pointing to natural phenomena. Intense underwater volcanic activity, shifting magnetic fields, and rogue waves. Yet, these explanations fall short of explaining the persistent stories of strange occurrences that continue to haunt those who venture near the area. Could it be that something more, something beyond our understanding, is at work in this mysterious patch of ocean? The Devil's Sea reminds us that the world is full of spaces that our logic and reason cannot tame. Despite our advancements in science and technology, there are still places on Earth that challenge our comprehension. Places where we are reminded of how little we truly know. The stories that surround the Devil's Sea are not just about the disappearance of ships and planes. They are about our deep-seated fear of the unknown, of places where even the laws of nature seem to break down. When we venture out into the world, we tell ourselves that we can control the elements, that we can conquer the unknown with science, reason, and technology. But there are places, like the Devil's Sea, where the world still holds secrets that we are not meant to uncover. Perhaps the real mystery is not just what happens in these waters, but why we feel compelled to challenge the darkness that lies beneath. Could it be that the ocean holds a deeper truth? That not all mysteries are meant to be solved,